Hi guys, it is time for another art sound off. It is, I want to say the 28th, but I'm probably wrong. Like I said, I've been having trouble keeping track of days lately. They're all starting to blend into each other, but I do fly back to Nashville tomorrow, so I am on top of that. So I do want to talk to you guys about self-publishing, specifically self-publishing kids media or kids comics. But first, I want to do a little PSA. Unfortunately, I have a feeling the people who need to see this are not going to see it. If you ever have a problem with anything I do on this channel or anything I do on the blog, I would really prefer it if you talk to me about it directly. It's fine if you have a problem. I'm an artist, I'm a human, I am always capable of growth, and I always want to grow. And if something doesn't work for you, I want to know that too. Especially if you are an actual part of my audience, if you actually enjoy my content, if you consume a lot of it, I really do want to hear your feedback. That said, I would really prefer that you tell me. You can do it in my comments, you can do it via email, you can tweet at me. Plenty of people have. And sometimes it takes me by surprise, and I'm not always as gracious to the criticism as I could be. Like I said, I'm human. That is something that I'm working on. But if you do it in my comments to someone else or in response to someone else and you don't include me in it, that is, in my opinion, kind of rude and disrespectful. I wouldn't do that to you. And yeah, I can see it and I will probably respond to it and I'll try to be polite about it, but it really bothers me. And the reason this bothers me is this is a community. I am trying to have a dialogue with you guys. When you have a dialogue about me to someone else in my comments, you are maybe unintentionally trying to exclude me from the conversation. You are not giving me the opportunity that I deserve to grow. And you're not actually contributing anything to the growth of this channel or the growth of this content. So you're just doing a lot of detrimental, hurtful things. And like I said, I am always open to criticism. I may not always respond as gracefully as I should. I am working on that. I am trying to grow and improve, same as anybody else. When you put yourself out there on any platform, when you are putting yourself out, when you're being honest, when you're trying new things, it can be kind of tender and you may fail. You may do things that other people don't like. And I accept that. That is part of it. It's part of the learning curve. So I do accept that there are going to be times where I do things that you guys don't like. And I'm not going to delete those comments. I'm not going to block you. That's not the sort of relationship I want to have with you guys. I want you guys to tell me. I want you guys to respect what I do and who I am and treat me like an adult, because I am an adult, and come to me when you have problems with something that I've done. So I'm sorry for that. Every now and then there's like a batch of those sort of comments, and it's always on. It's like on the fountain pen video. It has been on the really early Art Snacks versus Sketchbox videos, but not any of the recent ones. And it's on a lot of some of the marker videos where people will call me an idiot or a pain, but they don't tag me. If you wouldn't want that said to you or about you, please don't do that to me. Like I said, I'm a person. Let's try to treat each other with respect. A lot of YouTubers aren't going to call this sort of behavior out, and I'm never going to call out names, but I am going to say that this is the sort of behavior that I really don't like. So if you like my content, if you like the things that I do, maybe not that particular video, but in general, if you like the things that I do, please be respectful to me. Please address me directly, and don't talk to me like I'm a child, because I'm not. I'm an adult woman, 30 years on this planet, MFA in art. Give me some credit, guys. So we're going to talk about self-publishing today, which is a topic that I am fairly schooled in. So if you guys don't know, I have a comic out, and this is 7-inch Kara. It is an all-ages comic, but it is primarily aimed at young girls and young boys from the ages of 8 to 11. It came out in 2014. I'm working on volume 2. It is full watercolor, so it does take a long time to do. I am paying for every aspect of this book. The first volume was printed through CreateSpace. I think I'm going to move to Print Ninja for the next one. It is not actually a webcomic yet. Even though I have all these pages out, I have over 100 pages finished and lettered and ready to go. Originally, what I had wanted to do was I wanted to finish the entire comic and then release it as a webcomic. And I don't like long-form comics that only do one page a week, because I feel like you're just kind of always in a state of cliffhanger. It's hard to keep invested when you're only getting one page a week, at least for me. And what I will usually do with those sort of webcomics, if I enjoy them, like Namesake, for example, or Cucumber Quest, is I will wait until they have a Kickstarter and then I'll buy the volumes. So what I ended up doing was I just released the first volume. And since it's a children's or an all ages comic, I figured, you know, a lot of younger kids are not necessarily allowed to or have access to webcomics. So I thought maybe introducing it as a print comic first would help. But we are really hoping to have it on the website in 2017. So as a webcomic for people to read, and I am part of a comic collective. So me being part of that comic collective, I mean, yes, the blog is considered an associate, but the contingency is that I need to get Kara up. So that is something that I am working on. So I started working on 7-inch Kara in 2012. It was part of my SCAD graduation requirements, and I'm going to flip through it for you guys. I apologize for the lighting. Like I said, I'm still in Luling, and the lighting is very, very yellow, which is not very complimentary to my work. And you guys saw some of the pages from Volume 2 and Volume 1 yesterday, day before yesterday, Saturday. You guys saw some of the pages Saturday when I was talking about representation. So those are big 11 by 14 watercolor pages. But I started this project in 2012 as part of my SCAD graduate thesis requirement. My thesis was on how page layout affects reading comprehension for young readers. And in that time, I read dozens and dozens of comics supposedly aimed at kids. And some of them are. Like Toon books are great for young readers. And like Rena Telgemeier's stuff, Dave Roman's stuff is great for middle grade readers. But I noticed there was really nothing at all for like tween readers, early reader, easy readers. That's what it's called. These are books that are a little bit easier for a young reader to read. You know, they're not in baby books anymore. They want something for themselves. It should be a chapter book. Illustrations are a plus. But there's really not a lot of comics in that. And a lot of publishers were not interested in that demographic. And a lot of publishers at the time were not interested in doing a comic that focused around a little girl and her friendship with a human girl. So I decided that I wanted to do this. I felt really strongly about this. I was very passionate about it. I really love beautiful, lavish watercolor children's books. I grew up reading Many Luscious Lollipops and Animalia and all of these really beautiful, the Garth Nix illustrations in Little House of the Prairie. I grew up with a lot of that. And I wanted to bring that to comics, and I specifically wanted to bring that to children's comics. So I decided that I cared about this project so much that I was going to publish it myself. So after I had about 100 pages of comic, the first 4 chapters finished, I felt like that was a good place to break and release it as a first volume, because a lot of other comic people were like, you're not a real comic artist, you don't actually make comics. And it's like, I have 100 pages of a watercolor comic out, and I've done dozens of other comics. But, you know, with people, you have to constantly show them your work. You have to constantly prove yourself and prove what you're doing. So I released Volume 1 in 2014 when I finished Chapter 4. And I released it to debut at Mocha Fest. And I'd actually hired a friend to help me lay it out. And things got complicated and things took longer than they needed to. So although the book was supposed to be ready to be judged as part of one of Mocha's comic competitions, it didn't make it in time. In fact, it arrived the day after it was due, because I had to mail it directly from CreateSpace, the place that I got it printed with, to Mocha. So, and then they weren't going to give me the books back. I had to chase them down and be like, hey, can I have those books back? I sent you 4 copies. Fun. They didn't even look at them. Fun. So self-publishing, that is all part of it. So we're going to take a look at Kara and we're going to talk about it. So I apologize again for the abysmal lighting and the abysmal setup. I had to go find somewhere quiet and secluded to record, and I'm recording on my phone. So, you know, this is really seat of my pants. But this is, like I said, that first volume. It has a matte finish. It was printed through CreateSpace, which is with a company with Amazon. And I opted to go through CreateSpace because my friend Heidi Black had recently at the time published her book, Electric Abyss, The Art of Heidi Black, through them. So she was super familiar with them. And I had never gone and gotten like a professionally printed book before. So I'd always done, let me pull one out for you guys, although you saw one yesterday. I had done loads and loads of these little ash can minis where you print them at home or you print them at Office Max and you staple them down the middle using a saddle stapler or a long arm stapler. I've done loads of those, but I wanted a perfect bound book on my table because I'd gotten really tired of people not taking me too seriously. You know, they kept saying, well, you need a real book, you need a real book. And at that time, I'd already been in 3, I want to say, anthologies. I was published in Travel, which was put out by SCAD. I was published in Once Upon a Time, which was a fairy tale anthology. And I had recently been published in Hanadoki Kira, which was a shoujo anthology. But, you know, I still felt like I needed more legitimacy, especially since I wanted to do kid stuff. And I also thought I might be more attractive to publishers if I had a book on the table to show that I am capable of doing a full book. So this is volume 1. It's 120 total pages, 75 of which are comic. The back end is concept stuff, and I opted to do that so I've been accused by one person, but still accused, of including the concept stuff to just sort of pad the back, and that's not the case. I actually really love concept sections. I read a lot of Japanese art books, and I adore seeing how the artist thinks, and I thought other people might enjoy the same. So this was printed through CreateSpace, and I did all of the design. My partner did all of the layout for me, and we sent it off to someone else to lay it out in InDesign so it could be turned into a PDF and sent off to CreateSpace. It has full blade printing, which I've been told they no longer do. They told Lenore for Gizmo Grandma that they would not do it, but I have a feeling they kind of told her whatever they thought they could get away with. But it has full bleed printing. And if you compare these to the original pages, they are a little hot. It printed a little red, but I felt like it was still attractive, and I felt like it didn't harm the storytelling, so I was fine with that. And I did not kickstart this. I paid for this entirely out of pocket. I will be kickstarting volume 2, but that's going to be after the webcomic is launched. And I feel like doing a Kickstarter is a great way to not only fund a book you're working on, but to raise interest, raise awareness, and raise support. I've been very, very active on Twitter since I joined in 2008. I have loads and loads of Twitter friends, and I will say that they are way better about signal boosting someone else's Kickstarter than they are about signal boosting comics, and I think I'm the same way. I think it's that whole trying to raise money, trying to fund a project, but trying to do it in a short amount of time, in a limited amount of time, really gets people going, really gets people supportive. Whereas if you're always offering a book in your shop, people are maybe less likely to buy because they're going to feel like they always have the opportunity to do so. So yes, this book is available at nattosoup.com/Kara-comic in case you're interested, in case you enjoy what you're seeing here. But, so I have had copies of this book on my table for the past 3 years. I sell 7-inch Kara mostly at anime cons, but also at indie cons. I try to do one big indie con per year. This year I did, I did A2CAF in Ann Arbor. That is formerly Kids Read Comics. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I did Ape in San Francisco, and I sold a good number of Karas, so I was pleased about that. I did Handmade and Bound in Nashville, which is more of a bookmaking show than it is a comic show, but I do think it's important to represent comics. And I did Noka's Fest in New Orleans, and at Handmade and Bound and Noka's Fest, sales were disappointingly low. In fact, at Noka's Fest, this is my 3rd year at Noka's Fest, my 3rd year having Kara on the table there, and I sold no copies of Kara at Noka's Fest, which is a first for Noka's Fest. So I was very, very disappointed in those sales. For me, you know, making a lot of money at a show is great. I made $1,800 at MTAC, but what I really judge, what really makes a difference to me is not how many fan art pictures I can draw, not how many commissions I can take, but how many copies of the thing I love the most I can sell. So I often will judge a con success, especially an indie con success, by how many copies of Kara move. And I sold 14 copies of Kara at A2CAF. I was extremely pleased. And I sold 7 copies. I would have sold more. I know those don't sound like big numbers to you guys, but we're going to get to that in a minute. I sold 7 copies at Ape, and I sold out because I only brought a few. So the thing about having a self-published kids comic is it's really hard to convince people to take a chance. I sell this for $15. It often comes with a cute little wooden charm, which really helps sales, but I'm running low on those, so I can't offer them right now. But this is $15. It's full color. I did all of this myself. It is entirely a labor of love. I am a micro business, a small business, an independent artist. I'm trying to produce the sort of quality kids entertainment sort of quality kids media that, you know, parents say they really want. But the thing is, nerdy parents, and you guys can totally bash me in my comments, just address me directly. Nerdy parents do support nerdy media for their kids, but they're going to buy what they enjoy. So they're going to buy Baby Batman, they're going to buy Baby Justice League. They're not going to buy necessarily a comic actually designed for kids. They're going to buy a kid's version of the comic that they love. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast, and I can't even say that I would be any different. So it is really hard to get nerdy parents to pick this up. So what I started doing is I started putting my portfolio, the one I showed you guys the other day with the original pages in it, out. Very first thing on the table. And that thing is huge. It takes up a massive amount of space that could be spent on things that will sell. But it's really, really important to me to introduce people to my work. So I put my portfolio out, and that has helped a lot. And a lot of the people who would give me skunk face and mutter things like Miyazaki wannabe and weeaboo, thinking I can't hear them, a lot of them are actually very impressed when they see the watercolor pages in person. I guess it's just human nature to very quickly write people off when you're in sort of a compressed setting, an overpacked IndieCon like MoCA or SPX. But having those watercolor pages out is sort of like my proof of admission, the proof of concept. You know, I care about this, I love this, I'm willing to put blood into this. So, you know, having those pages does normally help sales. It certainly helps engagement. Even people who would not be interested in the book will normally stop and at least flip through and maybe ask me some questions. Usually, is this really watercolor? Yeah, it's all watercolor. Do you hate yourself? Yeah, I do. No, I love watercolor. And I'm actually pretty quick at it. I can do 6 pages at a time in 3 days. So it isn't as bad as people think, especially if I'm working on something that is all mine. Now, while I work on Kara, I also participate in numerous anthologies. I've participated in their Kickstarter campaigns. I've gotten very adept at self-promotion, as you guys can maybe tell, I don't know. But I always want to remain who I am and true to myself and true to my values. So even though I've gotten very good at promotion, I'm never going to promote something I don't actually believe in, and I'm never going to push something that I don't actually love. So, you know, I'm very, very proud of Volume 1. I am super duper duper eager to get Volume 2 out. But I will say that self-publishing, especially if you're doing stuff aimed at kids, especially if you're doing stuff that is squeaky clean, like Kara, there's no overt religious messages. This is pretty secular in that I don't try to promote any one thing. But because the real message I want to promote is friendship and acceptance and love and getting to know somebody for who they are, that sort of thing. And that to me is the most important thing. But it would almost be easier if I had just like gone full out and done a religious kids comic, because then I could have sold it to a religious kids publisher, because they're always looking for that sort of stuff. So this is my self-published project. I need to end the video here because my camera is telling me 10 minutes. I'm going to see if I can't get another 10 out of it. Okay, so we've got 10 more minutes, but I hopefully will not fill that up. But anyway, so when you have a self-published comic like this, it really helps if you can get a Valkyrie, especially if you're a woman artist who makes content for girls or kids. If you can get a Valkyrie, a woman in the comics industry, a woman in comic sales, a woman in libraries, a teacher who's passionate about comics to adopt you. And I'm still really working hard to attract the attention of a Valkyrie, but it'll happen at some point. I've talked to so many librarians. I've given so many teachers and librarians my cards, offered to come in and teach their kids how to watercolor. I've done so many panels. I do this YouTube channel. I do the blog. I really try to be very, very active in the community and help other people as much as I can, because I feel like if I'm going to attract, given my art and given who I am, if I'm going to attract the help of anybody, it's going to be probably based on mostly how much I've given to the community already. But that hasn't exactly paid off, but I will continue to labor under that delusion because it justifies me spending massive amounts of time helping other people. But if you can get a Valkyrie to adopt you, it's much easier to get your book in the hands of parents. It's much easier to get your book in libraries. It's much easier to get your book in classrooms, to get people looking at it, talking about it, reading it, get classroom visits, because they're going to push for you. And somebody who's already in the industry pushing for you is so much more meaningful than your efforts to push yourself. And I know that sounds defeatist, and I'm sorry if you feel that way, but 4 years of field experience have shown me that having someone who is an expert in something say that your work is worthwhile means a whole heck of a lot more than what you post. People often decide whether something is worthwhile or not because someone else told them it was worthwhile. We don't like taking risks on things, believe it or not. And that's why reviews can end up being very popular, is because we all want to hear from someone else who's experienced the thing, who's already spent the money, who's already spent the time, whether it's worth our time as well. So, you know, if you want to get your work in libraries, you guys can watch the interview that I did with the lovely Anne of A2CAF, where we discuss sending your stuff off to like Publishers Weekly and other sort of established review sources. Now, the caveat to that is if you are a self-publisher, if you are an author, if you are a creator with a book like that, you have to pay them $500 just to send the book off. And they want a galley draft. They want it a month before publication. So if you're like me, where you were working on, this was my first book, so I was working on some of the spot illustrations as I was laying out the book. And then I had a deadline to get it printed and sent out to MochaFest as soon as possible. So I really didn't have that month where I could send them a copy and then wait. That was a luxury I just couldn't afford. And I would really love to see the traditional children's book industry sort of understand that there are a lot of wonderful, worthwhile stories that are being told in indie that people are just not quite willing to sink thousands of dollars into to take a risk on. So it would really be nice if they offered tiers for independent or smaller publishers, self-publishers. But, you know, when you're talking about kids publication, comics understands that that is a necessity. Comics understands that many of us are self-publishing. Many of us want to self-publish. We want that control. Kids books still does not. They still equate quality with someone else publishing your stuff. Now, I could have found a vanity press and, you know, worked with them instead, but you know, for what the amount of effort that I've had to put into this book, the amount of effort I have to put in promoting and selling and attending dozens of cons a year, you know, I might as well just have full rights to it rather than let a vanity press have at it. Because with a vanity press, I'm still going to have to go out and table at dozens of cons to sell these books. They're not going to sell them for me. I'm still going to have to talk to thousands of people every single show. I'm still going to have to work really, really hard to get people to pick it up, to give it a shot, because it's $15 and they might not have $15, or they might have already spent their money in the dealer's room. I'm still going to have to, you know, do the promotional postcards and do everything I can to get my work out in front of people. So I might as well, I mean, to me, I felt like I might as well have just printed it myself and handled that myself. So, self-publishing has really been a learning experience for me, and I'm going to self-publish the rest of the books in this series. There's going to be 4 books, and this is volume 1, and I'm also going to handle the website as well, where I post the webcomic, because I want things a certain way. I want watercolor, I want a female main character, I want a person of color as the other main character, I want cat writing, I want a pet gecko, I want very specific things. And I don't necessarily want to have to work with a publisher and have to make certain changes that I wouldn't necessarily want to make with this particular story. I would rather just start all over again to custom make a story that they feel would work for them. And I've also talked to you guys about being in the process of sliding on over to the kidlit industry, because self-publishing is exhausting. All of the self-promotion, all of the sometimes, like at this time of year, like, because it's Christmas and parents are looking for presents for their children and grandparents are looking for presents for their children. And I've gotten just really kind of tired of selling at anime cons and selling at indie cons and always feeling like this isn't quite my demographic. Because while kids might be really into this, their parents are there for themselves and they don't necessarily want to buy for their kids. So I really want to slide over into a different demographic and work on promoting my work and promoting comics to a whole bunch of people who have never really given comics a fair shot, or they haven't given comics a shot since they were kids. So as you can see, it has an ISBN, it has a Baker and Taylor number. You can order 7-inch Sakura through your Barnes & Noble if you so desire. You can find it on Amazon, but if you actually would like to get a copy of this book, I recommend you get it through my website, because it's $15 there and it's $22 on Amazon, and I only see like 25 cents if you buy a copy on Amazon. I see very, very little money. It is $9 a book for me to buy these books, And I charge 15 because, I mean, look, this all took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of love. I'm still working on it. It takes a lot of promotion. You guys know that if you have questions, if you guys need help, you can always reach out to me. I feel like when you support this work, you're also supporting the channel, you're supporting the blog, you're supporting art education. So you're not only getting a beautiful watercolor children's book, but you're getting a lot more. And that's just something that you're not going to get if you buy it through Amazon. And it's just something you're not going to get if you get it through Barnes & Noble. Although I would appreciate it if you did, especially if there's a sale, because at least it'll let them know that people are interested in this product and that people want it. So, if you guys have any specific questions about self-publishing, let me know in the comments below. I'm always eager and happy to help you guys out. And if I don't have the answer, I have dozens of friends who make comics and sell comics and publish comics and sell anthologies and kickstart projects. And I'm sure I can get a hold of the answer for you guys. So I'm Becca Hilburn. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. This has been another Art Sound Off. I will see you guys again tomorrow before I fly back to Nashville. Bye.